All right, everyone, welcome back into another Prize Picks and Underdog video. Touch on the top prop bets in week 1 of the NFL season. Let's get into it. I do just want to call real quickly, though, that I do have this season-long props video available for Prize Picks, guys. Take advantage of that because I think that is really going to be where we are getting our biggest edges for the season. And heck, some of them I feel like could have a great chance to cash within the first month of the season. But let's just go ahead and start out this video by looking at the 9 of 5 discrepancy tab on the Prize Picks and Underdog cheat sheet. And so we can see right here, guys, not getting that many big prop line differences, especially if we sort it by like percent difference, not that big of percent differences. Now, sure, we want to make the best bet we can possible. Okay. Like if you guys see an edge on Underdog that you want to make a profit on, by all means, go for it. And like maybe passing yards, if you think Matt Jones is going to struggle or Daniel Jones is going to struggle, we can then go ahead and bet the under there on Underdog. And honestly, I really don't mind the idea of betting maybe the under on both of them on Underdog. And so if that is something you want to do, make sure to use the promo code right here, 925 spelled out. Okay, you get 100% match on a deposit of up to $100. That also helps out the channel as well. So if you guys appreciate the content, that is a way that you guys can help me out. Now, another thing that I want to call out here as well is that looking at the odds jam board that we have, we will see that we don't have any sports book odds being pulled in just yet. Okay, so these are numbers that can change. I want to make that very clear. But I have partnered with Odds Jam just to give you guys a higher amount of prop bets available on each day and each slate. So we'll be going through kind of looking at some of these prop bets, seeing some correlation bets, and then we're going to get into my bets of the week for NFL in week 1. So just quickly, we can see that based on the data that we have available right now, it is going to be Deshaun Watson over passing yards. This is fair at about a 54.8% chance to hit. Now, the biggest question mark that a lot of people are going to have is, will that Cincinnati Bengals defense be as good as it was last year? Because Deshaun Watson last year really struggled as a whole passing the football. But if we look back on it, what was his one really good game? Well, it was against the Bengals. So it's kind of twofold. One, will Deshaun Watson be playing better? I think he will. Will that Bengals defense still be as good? We will see. And now this one's very interesting to me as well. Najee Harris. We all know that Jaylen Warren has been getting a ton of hype and he's been looking really good. At the same time, I do think we are going to see them still default to Najee Harris a lot. And I do think we're going to see about the same production out of both of them, or same usage out of both of them, both Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren to start the season. And so if that occurs, maybe Najee Harris is someone that we're looking at because he did get a lot of rushing attempts at the tail end of last season when Jaylen Warren was being productive. And so we can see over the last 4 weeks, he would get the over that this is currently at. Now, the reason why that is such a low number is not Jaylen Warren. It's actually going to be the matchup with the Niners. So if the Niners are just as good as they were on defense, it's going to be tough sledding for them to run. Also, I think the passing game is going to be much more improved this season as well. So we'll see. Those could be two hedges or two huge edges that we get. But for now, I might just be kind of staying away from those. And like the next best ones that we have, Kenneth Walker going against the Los Angeles Rams. That's actually one I don't mind. 62.5 rushing yards. But still, my biggest takeaway from these is that naturally, none of these ones were the ones that stood out to me based off of what we saw as preseason. And so kind of my biggest takeaway looking over this, and this is also my expectation for week 1, is that we typically can gain a bigger edge by using maybe our own brains rather than the data that is available. Now, really after week 1, we want to be hammering that home. And don't get me wrong, guys, Vegas is going to be right more than they're not, which is what that day is pulling in there. And obviously, once we get more data points from the Vegas lines coming in, we'll be able to make better educated decisions. But I think as it sits right now, and I might do another video for this, it's better to just go off of naturally what we are thinking in our brains for week 1. So let's go and touch on my favorite props there, looking at week 1. And really what I want to be able to do in week 1 is I want to be able to stack, especially at the receiver position. So one game that I think has a chance to be a very high scoring game is going to be this game between Miami and the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay, so the biggest takeaway for Miami is going to be the fact that really they're healthy. Maybe not the running back position, which might lead to them throwing the football a little bit more, which might lead to a little bit more production than for someone like Tua. Now, we do see on his game log there against the Chargers, only 142 passing yards and only 1 TD in that game. Okay, week 14. Now, I don't really care too much about what teams did last year and like matchups or players did last year in these matchups. It's just noteworthy. But if that game does become a very high scoring game, like I think it will be, Tua has a good chance to get the over. We go to someone like Justin Herbert as well. He has a very good chance to get the over there against Miami. And once again, we see these lines here, and people that only look at the last 5 games, one, this is last season, but 2, they might not realize that, yes, the Chargers were banged up. Justin Herbert played through an injury the whole season. So if this game does shoot out like I think it could, Justin Herbert and Tua could be 2 players that we want to stack, and then we could easily run out maybe Tyreek Hill for over fantasy or for over receiving. We don't have a Jaylen Waddle prop just yet. Jaylen Waddle is currently banged up, so his prop line could change a little bit. So I don't know if we want to go in on this just yet, but obviously if Tua is having a big game, we expect that to be because of who? Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle. Then also, I kind of want to wait until we get a receptions props for someone like Keenan Allen and maybe even Mike Williams. Keenan Allen is someone that reports are saying the offense is flowing through Keenan Allen. No surprise there. Like, that is just what has happened throughout Justin Herbert's whole career, is that he just targets Keenan Allen heavily. And so that's kind of why I want to chase a receptions prop, because look at those targets. I mean, really, when Keenan Allen came back and was healthy, he was just averaging over 10 targets per game. It was insane. So obviously, if you're getting 10 targets per game, the receptions are going to be there as well. And we look at the last game against Miami, he was someone that was able to get the over there, 92 receiving yards there. Now, I do think it's worth calling out that Mike Williams is actually apparently going to be operating out of the slot a little bit more frequently. And so once again, if Justin Herbert has a very high yardage game, it's going to be because Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. A lot of people might be saying, well, what about Johnston, the rookie receiver? I don't think he's expected to be the receiver number 3. I actually think that's going to be Josh Palmer. So we probably, if we're looking for a stack here, Mike Williams, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen. Now, one stack that I told you guys to run out with the tacos, and I really encourage you guys to do that with any free square that we have available. Like right now, we have this Dak Prescott free square. If you guys want to run out the stacks with that, by all means do that. Because one, I think running out of stack increases our likelihood of them both to cash correlation there. And then we just take advantage of that free square. You know, we're increasing our payout drastically there. And so the amount of bets that we need to hit are reduced to have a profit. But going back to this was my favorite stack. Jerry Jeudy currently banged up. We will see. I bet this line increases a lot for Cortland Sutton. So hopefully you guys were able to take that and get that prop a couple of weeks ago. And then just real quickly looking at rushing yards, and then I'm going to be getting into underdog because I feel like we are gaining a better edge, bigger edge there on underdog. And so really, guys, I don't like many of these. Maybe Gibbs for over 37.5 rushing yards. And I keep comparing these two, Gibbs to Robinson. It's weird because the logic that people have around why Robinson is an elite fantasy football player for this season and really good for prop betting. Look at his lines for season long. He's like 400 yards or 300 yards total higher than Gibbs. But the reasons that we get for Robinson are the exact same as Gibbs. Now, for this game specifically, yes, they're going against Carolina. A little bit easier matchup to get rushing yards than is KC. Obviously, KC going to be throwing the football probably a little bit more against KC. Probably want to go total yards for Gibbs there. But that number is very low. And like, that's it. So let's go ahead and get into underdog because I feel like that is where we are getting the biggest edges. So once again, looking at the odds jam optimizer here. If you guys want access to this tool, you guys want to sign up, you can just use the promo code 905 and get 25% off. Now, full disclosure, I will be coming out with same kind of setup for NFL, but what I'm doing is I'm pulling in the average odds from the sportsbook. This is going to be pulling in some of the odds that are available on other props-based sites, maybe Thrive, maybe Parlay Play. Okay, so it's just a slightly different way to look at it. And to me, the more the merrier a little bit when it comes to like props betting, because like my tool, this tool is very much designed to give us the best long-term profit. And sometimes on the day, by just going off of sportsbook odds, you know, those Vegas lines that are out there, we might not have a lot of great betting opportunities. So if you're trying to build a 5-6 slip bet, it might not be a terrible idea to have something else out there as well. And so that's kind of what I'm using this for as well. And then also there's just other sports out there that we can use. But looking at it right now, we can see we are gaining a slightly better edge here on underdog. Like I said, Daniel Jones and Mac Jones are two of my favorite underbets. So on underdog, like, let's just go ahead and make those bets. And so here we go. We click on both of them. We can see kind of what the slip would look like here. So betting both of them on underdog has the breakdown of everything here as well. Now, Deshaun Watson, do you want to bet the under there as well? It does seem like he's a little bit juiced up there in underdog. Not a terrible bet there as well. You could easily add that in there as well. And like, to me right now, the biggest edge that we're getting is going to be on something like underdog. But once again, I do think at the start of the NFL season, the best edges that we're going to get is just by not exactly using data as much. It's going to be using what we have seen as far as preseason, using what we know. It's kind of like preseason NFL DFS where there's not that much data out there, where it's very much what's in here to have a big edge, or late season NBA DFS. That's really the sweet spot. And just to call out, guys, they do have Patrick Mahomes free square, so make sure to take advantage of that. And so what I like about underdog is they are just, one, they're giving us more props, but they're also giving us these fantasy score props. Okay, looking at like Jamar Gibbs, we have over 9 fantasy points. And just a reminder, this is kind of the breakdown of the fantasy score. Receptions is going to be 0.5. That's the only difference between PrizePicks and underdog. You know, on PrizePicks, it's 1 point per reception. And so for what it's worth, just looking at the Detroit Lions right now, guys, I think a kind of a big edge that we have is going to be looking at one of these two receivers, either Marvin Jones or Josh Reynolds, are going to be very low for their fantasy score. And I think the reason why we're getting them both low is because we don't know which one it's going to be just yet, operating as that receiver number 2. They're going to need a pass catcher. And heck, they both have an opportunity to get the over here. We all expect it to more so be Marvin Jones. And if it is, that's a very low number. And each one, it'll probably go up before lineup lock, that number, that fantasy score. but he is someone that, while Williams is out, he's expected to be the receiver number 2. So I think he has a good chance to get the over fantasy score. And another one that I kind of find funny, like if you would have told us before Kadarius Toney got injured that we were going to get a fantasy score of 5, like we would be jumping all over that. If he plays, I expect him to play as a starter and play in his normal allotment of snaps for the season. Now we have no idea what that's going to be. Maybe just 65% of snaps, but besides Travis Kelce, he is their best pass catcher. And so if he does play, I don't expect his snaps to be limited. So I really do like the higher there. Now, so far, those are going to be the only players that we have fantasy score for. And that's just simply because that's the first game on the slate. That's why they have that available. But we also are getting some reception props as well. So let's go ahead and touch on my favorite receptions props. So one that I really like is going to be Nico Collins for over 3 receptions. I don't really get this number that we're getting. He was one of the players like season long that I thought his receptions props were vastly too low. And if we look at Nico Collins' game log from last year, now he missed the final tail end of the season, but really when he took over for that receiver number 1 role in that offense, which I think he'll have again this season. And we have seen that thus far in the preseason as well, with very limited snaps. Like he played 3 series. We saw him get 2 receptions in one of the games. Like I think that's what we're going to see. And so for a guy that like this is basically going to be a push, like this seems like an easy one. At the very least, we're going to push. Now the only worry is that like Stroud really struggles. Baltimore's D gets like a pick 6. Maybe there's another turnover and the game just gets out of hand fast. That'd be my only worry. Now, guys, this might be where I could be getting some preseason trap thought. Okay, don't get me wrong. But we did see Tank Biggs be a little bit more involved in that Jaguars offense than I think anyone expected. Like he was playing with the starters for Jacksonville when they were in there, as well as Travis Etienne. And I think this is going to end up being much more of a 50-50 split than a lot of people expect. So if that occurs, for us to get 25.5 for a rushing or receiving prop for Tank Bigsby, that seems to be way too low to me. He could easily get that in 1 reception. And sure, he had that key fumble. That honestly, I feel like if he doesn't fumble there, like we are literally getting this number 10 higher, 10 yards higher. So that's another really good one that I think that we have available on the slate. Now, I do want to talk about the Chargers here because I feel like this is very, very interesting because I want to call this out. Okay, let's look at the reception. Keenan Allen's is set at 5.5. That number seems way too low. We look at Keenan Allen, guys, like at the tail end of the season last year, and this is literally what has occurred since Justin Herbert has taken over at quarterback for Keenan Allen, with Keenan Allen in that offense. When Keenan Allen has been healthy, he's averaged over 10 targets. Like, look at this game log. 13, 11, 6, 14, 9, 14, 14, 7, 8. And guys, really, it wasn't until like week 13 when he was fully healthy. So we know he's going to get targeted heavily. And so for us only getting 5.5 receptions, I like that number a lot. Now, I also want to call this one for Austin Eckler. Guys, we really saw the production drop off for Austin Eckler in the receiving department once Keenan Allen was back healthy. There was basically like a direct correlation there. Like, look at the tail end of the season when we saw Keenan Allen healthy. 4 targets, 4 targets, 4 targets, 4 targets. Really dropped off there. Now, the only issue that I have with this is one, game flow. Kind of a new offensive system as well. Like, you want to get Austin Eckler the ball. Like, 5 receptions is not like too crazy. But at the same time, that does seem to be like a slight edge there. Like, I think there is some correlation there as well. We know that Keenan Allen operates a little bit more in short yard situations. So hopefully Justin Herbert is looking more downfield than, horizontally to a dump off to Austin Eckler. And then by now, if you guys have watched my videos for week 1 coverage, you know that I love really just the Packers in general and the props that we are getting available for them and the lines that we are getting available for them in week 1. Christian Watson is going to be no exception to that. Okay. In the preseason that we saw him, we saw 3 targets, 1 reception on 3 series, and another one, 3 targets, 2 receptions, 6 yards. That was very vanilla offense for them. Now we tack on the fact that Romeo Doubs is currently questionable. Like, I do expect him to play. I'm really not too worried about that. But the fact that Matt LaFleur didn't comment on it does worry me a little bit. And so if we get news that Doubs is out, I just think that we're going to see the usage for Christian Watson go up a little bit more. Now, one thing I do worry about is I'm pretty sure that this is the rule. Like, I'm pretty confident that they changed the rule where those little pop passes where someone goes in motion in the front is now a rush. I'm pretty sure. Like, I do think there's a good chance Christian Watson gets one of those. And so that does kind of hurt the receptions a little bit for him. But at the same time, I think he's going to be targeted around 7 times per game this season, maybe 7 to 8 times per game. And so against the Bears, to get such a low line for both receiving yards and receptions, that is something that I really like. And just based off of this, guys, we're going to get a very low fantasy score for him as well. So that is probably going to be something that we want to take advantage of as well. I might I don't know. They both look good. Maybe receiving yards there for Christian Watson. Hopefully it doesn't matter. And then for what it's worth, guys, like that's a stack that I don't mind. Give me Jordan Love for higher for a passing score. Once again, Jordan Love really did well thus far this preseason. Through 3 series in every game, 63 passing yards. You give him that second quarter, times that by 2. It's over 100 in each game. Then you times that by the second half as well. It's over 200 passing. Now, given the fact that he's going against the Chicago Bears defense, the defense that's not expected to be that good. Yeah, that goes hand in hand. I like that stack. Now, I will say I don't mind the CeeDee Lamb for over receptions there, 5.5. I think he does have a good opportunity to get 6 there in that game, but that does feel like we're forcing it a little bit. And so let's go ahead and get into my bet of the days for week 1. Okay, this is going to be a 5 slip bet here for underdog, but let's say you guys want to go ahead and use one of these props with that free square that we have for Patrick Mahomes. This is my favorite one. I'm hammering Jordan Love. He's probably going to make me look stupid now. I'm going to have to wear the Homer helmet in shame on my next video if he doesn't get the over. But that number just seems way too low for me. And just to echo this point further, guys, I would say really the reason why he wouldn't get the over here is because he ran the football a little bit too much. Like his rushing yards were a lot higher than expected. So then he didn't have to throw the football as far. That's my biggest worry. But guys, that's going to be all for this video. Remember, if you guys want to, make some of those bets on underdog and you haven't signed up yet, make sure to use the promo code 925. That's going to be the letter spelled out. If you guys want access to that odds jam optimizer and don't want to pay full price, by all means, use the promo code 925. But also make sure to give a like and subscribe. And also, if you guys want access to the 925 cheat sheet, make sure to do that as well. That's available for just $10 a month. That's all for the week 1 props video. It was very much a big deep dive, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that coverage. Let's have a good week 1. And as always, let's keep cashing.